Welcome to the Sewing Whisperer. Today we're going to tackle some of the most frustrating problems that can happen with your overlocker just when you're ready to sew. And stick around to the end because I've got a quick tip that'll save you the hassle of thread change if you hate switching colours. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Over my 30+ year career in the rag trade, I've taught hundreds of students how to sew, and I look forward to helping you on your sewing journey. The problems that occur with overlockers are quite generic for all brands and styles of overlockers. Problem 1, dodgy stitches and threading problems. My students were always in a panic leading up to their panel presentations, and in those final few days I was constantly fixing overlockers. Whenever I sat down to troubleshoot one, the first thing I'd do was scan the threading, starting at the thread stand and following it all the way down. Most of the time the problem was hiding somewhere in the threading. For information on threading the machines, check out my previous video linked in the details below. Check the thread stand first. It's not uncommon to have a thread double up on the wire. It can be caused by a fan or a flick of fabric when someone's walked past from the machine previously. Continue to check all the other threading throughout the machine. Be sure none of the guides have been missed. The left bottom looper guide is a common problem thread guide, and you need to check that one. Before sewing a sample, check that the threads are not tangled under the throat plate by passing a screwdriver under the foot. Also check the threads being used and ensure they are of good quality. 100% polyester is the best choice. Problem 2, needles. If the needle is not inserted properly, it can throw the timing of the stitch formation out. Check that the needles are being pushed up as high as they will go and ensure the flat shank is to the back. Check your machine manual for the correct needle needed for your machine. Overlockers generally use the same generic needle as your standard sewing machine. Ensure you have the correct needle size and point for the fabric you're using. Always test on a scrap of the fabric you're working on before starting your project. Ensure you're using a universal point needle for woven fabrics and a ball point or jersey needle for knits. The heavier the fabric, the larger the needle point size needed. Problem 3, tensions. The tensions control the stitch formation. Check your manual for the correct settings for your machine. It's not uncommon for a bit of fluff to kick the thread out of the tension. The tension should be set to the recommended setting for your machine, and it's unusual to have to change them very much. Let's look at how you can identify which thread is the problem. If there's no tension on the left needle, in this case the yellow thread, it will be loopy and the fabric can be pulled apart. This can be referred to as grinning. When the right needle has no tension, the top side will probably look okay, but the underside of the right hand needle, in this case the blue thread, is quite loopy. If the top looper thread is too loose, in this case the red thread, it will roll over to the underside and look quite loopy and uneven. When the bottom looper thread is too loose, in this case the green thread, it rolls to the top side and is quite uneven and loopy along the top. If the tension dials are on the correct setting for your machine, dust the tension discs and blow on them to remove any fluff, and double check the thread is in the tension by pushing and pulling it. Do this for all tensions. Problem 4, the differential feed settings. The differential feed settings control the feeding of the fabric into the machine. The feed dogs or teeth can be set to move differently. On my machine, the setting of 2 moves the teeth together, whereas the setting of 0.7 appears to move the front teeth faster than the back teeth, creating more of a stretch when feeding the fabric. Let's look at the feed dog settings and how it works. I've set the differential feed dial to the full stretch setting. On my machine, that is the smallest number, 0.7. You can see when I sew a knit fabric, it's very stretched. But when I sew the woven, it actually looks pretty good. Next, I've set the differential feed dial to the full gather setting of 2 on my machine, which is the largest number. When I sew the knit, it gathers slightly, but it's not too bad, whereas the woven looks quite gathered. Now let's find the correct setting for each fabric. The knit needs to be set at about 1.5 for my machine. The knit should look ever so slightly pulled in or as flat as can be, but absolutely not stretched at all. It's imperative that the differential feed be set correctly when sewing knits. The woven can be set to between 1 or 2 depending on the weight of the fabric. Always sew a sample of fabric to ensure the differential feed is set correctly. Problem 5, blunt or damaged knives. If the knives are blunt or incorrectly positioned, the fabric will look quite rough on the edge and tends to roll under when you sew. Be sure to engage the top knife if you have disengaged it at any time. Hitting a pin with the overlocker can damage the knives quite dramatically. This is the top knife and this is the bottom knife, and they're held in place by these screws. If one or both knives are blunt, you can usually see or feel the roughness by rubbing along the blade. The knives can be replaced, and I would recommend having them replaced by a mechanic because they can be a bit tricky to align yourself. Problem 6, cleaning and oiling. If the machine sounds like a rusty old truck, this is caused by lack of oil on the moving metal parts of the machine. You need to clean and oil the machine regularly. Check out your manual instructions for this. To clean and oil the machine, remove the foot and throat plate and dust around the teeth. You'll have quite a build-up of fluff in there. You can also set your vacuum cleaner to blow instead of suck, to blow all of the fluff and dust out of the way. Put a couple of drops of oil on the recommended sections listed in your manual. Always sew a sample to ensure there's no remaining oil showing on your fabric once completed. And now finally, the bonus tip, clear threads for the win. Yes, you can use clear polyester threads on your overlocker, and they can be a real time saver. I've linked my recommended brands below. They perform just as well as regular threads, and while they blend beautifully with lighter fabrics, they're still totally passable with darker ones too. When my mum first tackled an overlocker, the threading overwhelmed her, so she just stuck with clear threads all the time. For everyday projects, that's a great hack. But if you're aiming for that polished professional finish, I really recommend getting comfortable with threading and using colours that match your fabric. Everything feels easy when you know how. I've experienced just about every overlocker issue out there. I hope this video helped you fix yours. Recognising the problem is the first step to solving it. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe so you don't miss my next video. We're starting a fun first sewing project, and it includes a free downloadable pattern I think you'll love. Thanks for watching to the end.